All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into one of history's most fascinating and, let's be honest, strangest menus. We're talking, of course, about the diet of John the Baptist.
It's just this one little line from the Gospel of Matthew, but it has puzzled people for centuries. So often, it's just sort of brushed off as a quirky, curious detail about a rugged guy living out in the desert.
But what if this diet wasn't random at all? What if it was a deliberate, powerful, and brilliantly layered message just packed with meaning for his audience? Okay, let's really dive into this mystery. So, we're going to approach this like a full on investigation. We're looking for clues hidden right there in plain sight to understand the real meaning behind what John was eating. For years, the common explanation has been pretty simple. John's living a self denying lifestyle, right? He's out in the harsh Judean wilderness, so naturally he ate what he could find. It was seen as a sign of his poverty and his total commitment to a life free from worldly comforts.
And look, that explanation makes sense on the surface, but it barely scratches it. If you dig just a little deeper, you start to see a far more intentional and deeply symbolic purpose behind every single bite.
Okay, so our first clue isn't found out in the wilderness, but in the pages of ancient Jewish law, specifically the book of Leviticus. See, this wasn't just about survival, it was about holiness. Now, here's what's so fascinating. The Torah, way back in Leviticus 11, explicitly says it's okay to eat 4 specific types of leaping insects. This means John's diet wasn't just practical, it was perfectly legal and ritually clean according to the strictest standards of the law. He wasn't just eating bugs, he was eating kosher bugs. And get this wasn't just some meager survival food. Roasted locusts are a nutritional powerhouse. We're talking about 60% protein. For a preacher on the move, this was a sustainable, high-energy food source provided directly by God, not by human hands or farms. Let's move on to our second clue, because this is where it starts to get even more interesting. This was about more than just food. This was about costume, about identity, and about sending a very, very clear signal. And boom, here it is. The description of what John was wearing isn't just a random detail. It is a direct, almost word-for-word echo of the great prophet Elijah. John was literally dressing the part. Now, you have to remember, for John's first-century audience, this parallel would have been unmistakable. They were steeped in prophecies just like this one from Malachi, which promised that Elijah would return to prepare the way for the Messiah. John's entire appearance was a giant billboard screaming, "The time is now." So here's the crucial point. Prophets back then didn't just speak their message, they often lived it. You think of guys like Isaiah or Ezekiel, they performed these dramatic, symbolic acts. John's whole lifestyle, where he lived, what he wore, and yes, what he ate, was a deliberate, living performance of his prophetic message. Our third clue suggests that John's diet was also a radical statement about ritual purity, and this might just link him to some of the most devout and separate groups of his day. One really compelling theory connects John to the Essenes. This was a Jewish sect known for their incredibly strict purity laws. They often lived apart, out in the desert, and were absolutely obsessed with avoiding any kind of ritual contamination. This really breaks down their commitment. The historian Josephus tells us they took tremendous oaths just to stick to their diet. And a key rule: never, ever eat food prepared by an outsider. Well, this created a huge problem for any Essene who had to travel. Their solution was simple but radical: eat what you can find in the wild. And that's where locusts and honey come in. They were guaranteed to be pure, untouched by outside hands. Now, another possibility is that his diet was part of a lifelong Nazirite vow. We're told in the Gospel of Luke that an angel commanded John's parents that he would drink no wine or strong drink. So if you can't have grapes, where do you get your sweetness? Wild honey. It was the perfect stand-in for the forbidden fruit of the vine. Okay, so when we pull all these clues together, the legality of the food, the prophetic costume, the extreme purity, the full picture of John's diet just snaps into focus. It completely transforms from a strange snack into a powerful, living parable. Jesus himself highlights this contrast brilliantly. Remember when he asked the crowds, "What did you go out into the wilderness to see? A man dressed in soft clothing?" This was a clear, pointed jab at the corrupt, opulent, and morally bankrupt court of King Herod. Exactly. John's rough clothing and his foraged food were a form of socio-political protest. His entire lifestyle screamed rejection of the elite. It proved he was a man who couldn't be bought, couldn't be bribed with fine food, and couldn't be silenced by the threat of losing comfort. This gave him the moral authority to stand right in front of a king and call out his sin.
So you see, it wasn't just one of these things. It was this masterful combination of all four. His diet was legally sound, prophetically charged, ritually pure, and politically defiant. It was an absolute masterstroke of communication. And what this one strange detail in the Gospels ultimately becomes is a dense, intentional symbol. It declares that God is not confined to the temple. He's not confined to the palace. Divine revelation can erupt right out of the wilderness through a man who depends on nothing but God's direct provision. So what's the big takeaway here? It's this. What seems at first like a bizarre historical footnote is actually a masterclass in symbolic communication. Every single detail of John's life was crafted to support and amplify his message.
John's menu was his message. It was a call for the people of Israel to strip away their complacency, to shed their reliance on corrupt systems, and to embrace a wilderness state of the heart, a state of total dependence on God in order to prepare for the coming king.
And that kind of leaves us with a pretty provocative thought. If John's simple meal of foraged insects and honey could carry such a profound and multi-layered message, what are our own choices? What we eat, what we wear, where we spend our time, communicating to the world around us?